Hi folks, Dave with DBS Tech Talk, and today we're going to do a comparison between the Fiio FH1s and the Jade Audio EA3. I'm going to try to do this real quick, as I do have reviews listed down below that you'd better check out for each individual one. The basic premise of the unboxing is the Fiio feels more premium when you open it. You do get a few extra accessories. The most notable one is the nicer hard case, waterproof case that you get versus the little soft pocket style case. The EA3s is more portable, shoves into a pocket a little bit easier, but I prefer a little more protection, and I like that you have a sealed hard plastic case. The tips and everything that are included are very similar. In fact, I think they're the same, and you may get a couple extras with the FH1s. I did not get the full unboxing experience with the EA3, but from what I can see through pictures and other reviews, it looks like they're very similar. So, from the unboxing experience, Fiio wins. Next up is going to be the actual in-ears themselves and build quality of the cable and the shelling, and then comfort and design. So the EA3 is a universal build, somewhat on the chunky side, not too bad. They have a little bit of a smaller size angle on the nozzle than I would prefer, but for the most part, they're okay for a $40 IEM. Problem is, build materials and just feel overall, it just feels like a $40 IEM that I have felt many others of. It just doesn't stand out in any way. The cable is meh. It is not a favorite of mine. It's on par with other $40 IEMs in my opinion. The just overall feel of it is too light, too thin, and it has a really bad problem of twisting up and just being annoying. I always had this issue where from the split, they just, as you're wearing them, it just twists up and doesn't lay flat. Yeah. It is a 2-pin. It's not bad. I mean, it's alright. It's average. On the other hand, the Fiio is just more premium feeling overall. From the shells to the way that the angle is, it's just larger, angled better. You have a gold nozzle. They just feel more premium when you touch them. You can tell a difference between the materials used to make the shell. They have more indentations and curves that fit in the ears better. I just found that these are more comfortable. And then the cable is by far way better. It has a more premium feel to it. It's not as thin, doesn't twist up, and when you get to the splits and you have them in your ears, it doesn't twist and turn and creep up your neck like the EA3. So overall design, beauty, just overall the EA3 is meh for the price, and the Fios feel like they cost more than they do at $60. You can definitely tell a difference between the siblings. The innards are the same. You have 26 ohms of impedance, 106 decibels of sensitivity, so they're both easy to drive, and they both have this massively huge 13.6 millimeter driver. And they both have a, as you can see right up there by the nozzle, a Knowles balanced armature. It's a little bit harder to see on the Fiio, but also one thing that you will notice is that the Knowles is not as far up on the Fiio as it is on the EA3, and that makes a huge difference also. We'll talk about that here in a moment. So the overall comfort is better on the Fiio, in my opinion. When you put it in your ear, it just kind of fits. I do not get any pressure anywhere, and the ear hooks do a really good job, whereas when I put the EA3 in, I get pressure down here a little bit and a little bit of pressure back on this part of the ear. Ear hooks are fine. So isolation wise is a little bit better also on the Fiio. As you notice, I do not have stock tips on either one. Fiio tips do not fit me very well. They're either too small or too large. I can't get that perfect seal with them. So on the Fiio FH1s, I have the RHA dual density tip, and then on the Jade Audio EA3, I have HiFi and biflange wide bores. I found that both of these tips worked very well with the sound signatures and brought out the best of the in-ears. So sound-wise, as I mentioned, the Knowles balanced armature is more forward on the EA3, and I think that makes a big difference, especially when it comes to the treble and the mids presentation of the two. I find that the EA3 is more shouty and a little more aggressive in the upper mids and lower treble regions versus the FH1s, which is more smooth and has less grain in that area. The EA3 has the bigger, more boomy bass and more thumpy, but the FH1s has more resolving, detailed, and balanced bass, even though it does lack the impact and the fun factor that the EA3 has. Treble wise, the FH1s is more refined and better resolving. It is extended well, it has better air and clarity, whereas on the EA3 tends to be a little bit more aggressive on the treble, and it has somewhat grain and harshness to it at times. And it does have airiness to it also, but the FH1s just sounds a little bit more refined and clear. Soundstage wise, both of them are fairly accurate, or excuse me, not accurate, fairly average. They are about the same width, but the depth and layering of the sound stages are better on the FH1s. The EA3 will sound a little bit on the compact side and a little bit compressed, especially when it's bringing in the details and things are traveling. Now, if things are just kind of separated out and standing, the EA3 does a really good job. Where it gets into trouble is on busier tracks when things are moving or when things are traveling across the stage. It'll do right, center, left. It's not really a flow. You will hear kind of gaps in the soundstage, whereas on the FH1s, you do not have the gaps. It's kind of a little flowing a little bit better. It does a little bit better tracking of sound. Also, it does a better job on busier tracks of keeping things isolated and separated out. The EA3 tends to muddle things up a little bit and jumble things, and so things will sound similar instead of separated out on busier tracks. If it's a more calm, less active track, EA3 does fine, and the FH1s does an excellent job of isolation and separation of instruments. So overall, in my opinion, the better sounding, better resolving, better value for sound of the two would be the FH1s, just because it is the more refined sound. But I do believe that most people will actually prefer the sound of the EA3 because of the thicker, warmer bass and just the more fun signature of the sound, the more full sounding in the mids. Whereas the FH1s does have a little bit leaner, thinner sound, a little bit more analytical and detailed. As far as playing on all DAPs and dongles and PCs and all kinds of devices, they both play very well. I did find that the EA3 actually tended to be a little bit more source dependent, and it just kind of surprised me. Did not play really well on the Pioneer XDP30R, but did not have that problem with the FH1s. So the EA3 just tends to be a little bit more dependent on things. Could be that Knowles balanced driver. And speaking of the Knowles BA, I find that I believe that the issue with the more shouty mids and treble on the EA3 versus the FH1s is the placement of the Knowles balanced armature. I think that Knowles being a little bit closer to the nozzle and closer to your ear on the EA3 tends to make it sound a little bit more shouty. Now I'm not an engineer and I'm not a designer, but that's just my assumption, since these have basically the same internals. Could also be a little bit of the design of the shell. But again, I just think that if the BA was a little bit farther back in on the EA3, it wouldn't be quite as shouty, as the FH1 is a little bit more smooth and resolving. So in conclusion, the Fiio FH1s and the Jade Audio EA3, I find both to be very competent in their price points. $40 for the EA3, $60 for the FH1s. The FH1s is definitely the better of the two, in my opinion. I find it to be more resolving, more clean, more clear, and more analytical. But the EA3 is the more fun sound, just overall thumpy bass and warmer mids. And I think that people would probably lean towards the EA3 just a little bit more for that, unless you prefer a little bit more leaner analytical sound of the FH1. But I do recommend both. I think both are very good for their price points. This has been Dave with DBS Tech Talk. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of a next video, somewhere on the screen is going to be a subscription link and notification bell. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then check out the links down below for the reviews of these individual items, and also for links to Discord, PayPal, Patreon, and playlists from Deezer and Tidal, and all kinds of other things. Thanks.